Yep.
Okay with that? Okay. I'm going to call the Administrative Services Committee meeting of January 8th at 8:25 at 8:30 a.m. to order. We will start with the roll call. John?
Here.
Paul?
Here.
I'm sorry, you got two first names, so I'm going to screw it up.
Take it easy, please.
Jerry?
Present.
Pam?
Here.
Matt?
Here.
And I'm here, and Eric is, sometime we'll get here, and he's done with court, I expect. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for November 7th?
I'll make that motion.
Made by Pam, is there a second? Terry, any changes or corrections to the minutes? Not seeing any. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. I have one person sign in for public comment. Kirk, you want to come on up and?
Sure.
You're welcome to sit if you'd like to sit, or you're welcome to stand, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, this is okay. Hi, my name's Kirk Donald, and I'm a member of the McHenry County Historic Preservation Commission. I'm here this morning to ask the Administrative Committee to change the way new members of committees are required to submit a statement of economic interest. When I was asked to serve on the HPC and subsequently volunteered gladly, I don't remember being required to fill out a statement of economic interest when I filled out the application. Months later, I received a certified letter telling me I had a limited amount of time to submit an economic statement, and if I missed the deadline, I would be charged a late fee of $15 plus $100 a day. For each day afterwards until the matter would be turned over to the state's attorney's office for collections. In my case, even though my statement was turned in to the county clerk's office at 9 a.m. the second morning, I was charged $215. Since then, I have learned there have been 6 other people on county committees who were in the same predicament as myself. However, chose to resign their appointments rather than pay the fines. I would like to suggest that prospective committee members are required to submit a statement along with their original application like political candidates do, or that the chairman of the prospective committee have a mini orientation meeting with each new member and explain the process face-to-face with the new members. You know, the fines, $100 a day, are set by the Illinois State Legislature, so it's not really the county's fault. But like, in my case, it took 2 days to get over this, you know, and thank God I'm over it now. But anyway, most people walk away with a bad taste in their mouth. They think that the county's either, you know, it's a money grab or it's mismanagement. They just don't understand, you know. And we're asking these folks to come in here on their dime, so to speak, and be a member to serve the county. And here, weeks later after they're appointed, we're gonna fine them $200, you know. And so anyway, I'm very hopeful that something can be done so that this doesn't go on. This year, or last year, we lost 6 people to committees, you know, and the process is just gonna repeat itself if we don't correct it. So, thank you.
Thank you. I have no other people signed up for public comment. Any member comments? Welcome to new members, and we will be happy to work with you guys. If you ever have any questions about anything, feel free to call me. I know they've already passed around the information on how to reach people, but we're always happy to explain how we got to where we're at. We don't have any presentations, new business. We have a routine consent agenda. Is there anything that you'd like to take off the consent agenda?
7.3 and 7.6.
Any others?
If there isn't, then I'll make a motion to approve the routine consent agenda.
Okay, I just want to point out one item. On 7.5, we didn't take it off. However, if we were going to take off 7.5, it would go to an executive session. Okay. that is just for future reference when it comes up. But anyhow, yes, I will
I'll
accept
finish
your
up,
motion.
yeah, thank you.
Is there a second to approve everything except for 7.3 and 7.6 as a consent agenda? John? We will go to roll call. Pam?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. That takes care of everything except for 7.3 and 7.6. Can I have a motion on 7.3? John, second by Terry. Matt, you pulled it? You have the floor.
Yeah, obviously, we've used this company before. I have no qualms about that. My issue is, I was told that the 2016 got askew. Some of the numbers changed, mostly in the form of people, how many people we're supposed to have in the county. I think this is premature by a year because of the fact that we are obviously having a lot of policy change. There's potentially going to be a lot of change with the new changing of the guard in the United States and where it's going. Even immigration policy is going to affect us because at some point, if they do hold our highway funding and they do hold this other funding, we will have to acquiesce to the demands of the federal government where it comes along to immigration. That's going to affect our workforce. That's going to affect our population. There's a lot of things now. This is a 180 turn with this new administration, and I'm not saying good or bad of any of that. I'm saying this is a lot of money to spend for items that I don't think anyone can predict accurately. I think this is a dart throw. This is a shot in the dark. And a year down the road, by next year, there should be some solidity to this administration, therefore giving you some solidity to us. Because governance and our taxation have more to do with our population than anything else.
We're going to set this for motion. Eric Hendricks is showing up online. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to allow Mr. Hendricks to participate electronically.
Seconded by Terry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Eric, you're on. Thank you.
So, finalizing, I'm a no on this.
I apologize.
That's fine. I'm a no on this, at least for this year. I'm not a no on the whole theory and the concept, but I think right now it's premature for us to just throw that at the dartboard.
Any other comments?
I would just like to hear from Peter and Scott on where they stand.
Sky's done most of the work, and I'll let him do most of the talking. I pushed to get this on the agenda today, and I did so kind of in response to the direction I felt like staff received from this committee middle part of last year, right? When we kind of looked at the space needs, and it was sort of agreed upon this would be something for the next year, for the next board, and it would be part of our strategic plan as we get into that. So this is a not to exceed contract. We're trying to reduce it. We're trying to focus on some areas where we know we need attention. But guess what? As soon as this got hit the agenda, we got a call from the sheriff's office to say, hey, make sure we're in there. We got real space needs. You know, they're genuinely concerned about where they're going. Health department's concerned about space. The courts are very concerned about space. So I'm trying to respond to what we were told last year.
And I would concur with all of that. So this is my question specifically, Scott. Hearing those concerns, how would you respond to that? And do our needs change drastically with regard to any concerns that Matt might have with regard to the federal government, you know, giving us different direction or withholding?
Well, I think it's really going to see how our population really does get impacted and how that impacts our services. And there's a lot of things that are really in play. And when we look at 2008 and 2016 compared to today, we know that the world has changed. And one way that it's changed is the way people work. And we have now we integrated a lot more technology. There's a lot more opportunities now that aren't considered in those previous studies. And population does drive your services. You have certain mandated services. We have health department here who has client-based services. So the more people you have, the more services you're going to have to provide as a county. But what this is originally proposed, and we are working with the architect to, quite frankly, to narrow it down or scale it down, is originally was proposed as a full master plan to Mr. Kunkel's point about looking at all the services as a whole. We know we have some immediate needs. We know that ideally, in the ideal world, we would want to see everything. We'd understand how all our departments are working or functioning, how they may change over the course of the next 5 or 10 years so we can truly do a rational strategic master plan. But as we sit today, we know, and as this committee knows from last year's presentation, our state's attorney, public defender, sheriff's office, office of specialty courts, our courts, all have indicated, maybe even the health department, have all indicated some real needs. And what we're trying to do is better understand those needs. This is presented to you as a not to exceed, as Pete said, because we're still working with the architect to pare it down into something that is going to be, I think, more usable. I appreciate the support of a complete master plan, and I would say hold on to that, because at some point in time, that's what we're going to do. The question of, is now the time? I think that's a very fair question, but we still need to do something to address these needs, and that's really what we want to do, is get your authorization so we can continue to work with our architect and address those immediate needs. One of the things that we're up against is a little bit of the time is of the essence. We have the opportunity to use ARPA funding for some of the building and facility improvements that we may need, but we have to expend those dollars by December 2026. So the longer it takes for us to understand what we need to do to address, let's say even those immediate needs, if we scale it back, we still have, we're going to eat into the time by which we have to expend those dollars. So that's kind of what, is driving this a little bit more. We would prefer to have something much more defined for you. As you know, that's how we like to work. But because of that, we're here before you to say, can you give us some latitude to work through so we can work with our needs and see the tangential changes that may come into effect, look at some of our opportunities, and then try to address these facility needs.
And are we also looking then too at efficiencies? I mean, I know we're talking about space, but I also, intimately engaged with public health. And I know the fact that we are scattered in several different locations make us much less efficient from a working environment. So are we looking at that too is that part of the study?
That is actually the primary part of the study. It's really not looking at so much the physical space. That's the secondary considerations. Understanding how the departments work and function and interact and what they need and what they may need down the road, so we could be a little bit more strategic. And then from there, then you look at your space and how you can best optimize your space to meet those needs.
And then can I ask, from the inception of this, how long do you anticipate that study will take, when we get the information, and then when we actually might implement something that they're recommending? Give me a time frame.
So the original agreement that was proposed, which is the basis of this not to exceed for the more of a robust full master planning, 8 months, just to understand what that space needs. And then you have the design, bidding, and construction, and that could take probably another, well, I don't want to speculate depending on what we're going to do. But even just understand under the full, it's about 8 months. If we do a more pared down version, I'm going to assume it's going to be less time, but until we work with the architect, we can't determine.
But to Matt's concern, this is a study that will give us information. It doesn't mean that we're pulling the plug or turning the light switch on for further engagement, investment, and expenditure.
That's correct. It'll probably take years to implement, depending, of course, on just the county's appetite for expenditures.
Some of you may remember when we went through what was done in 2016, and we did that presentation. Was it 10 months ago?
Spring of last year.
We kind of rattled off the things we had done, and there was a number of things we had done, but there was a number of things we didn't do, or we did it in a different way.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
So my concern still is the fact that this could be a paradigm shift. Even the Safety Act, which we ramped up space and everything for. And another one that I didn't want to throw out there because I don't want to be a science fiction guy, because I don't know anything about this stuff, as I'm going to tell you in 7.6 next. AI, What is AI going to do about giving us more space, reducing the needs in population? What is that going to do? How many more people will be able to work from Montana here in the state of Illinois? I mean, that's something else that's plausible. I just think, and I know we have to get out ahead of it. I understand that. And I like the fact of using our ARPA dollars for ourselves. But I don't think the urgency of this is now, and I don't think the decisions they make right now over the next 6, and as you said, 8 months, are going to be spot on. If there was even a 6-month delay before that next 8 months, we would have the time, and they would have time to make adjustments to that plan to my mind, more beneficially meet McHenry County's needs.
AI is something that should be clear and present on this organization's mind. It's here. It's already been implemented. And it's going to continue to grow.
We're going to start our training of employees in the next couple of weeks. The police just drafted our first training.
And even the movement of that implementation.
That's not going to change. That's not going to change no matter who's in Washington.
Well, no, that's why I said I didn't bring that up and I didn't bring that out, but there are going to be changes. I mean, we built a huge, beautiful facility that was going to last for a lifetime in our jail facility for ICE, and ICE was booted out the door. Now ICE is coming back. So, I mean, we have a lot of these needs may be potentially, I'm not saying these needs may be bigger than what even these people deem necessary in this time frame. We have land, we have space, I've been over there, they have needs, everyone has needs. Although, nobody's working like we've been working the last few years in doubled ups. Nobody's working with shorthands like we've been doing, not all of us are working like shorthand for people. So there are cases, and nobody here in the county is out in a tent. We're all working inside buildings. There is, for our immediate future, there is enough capacity now. Nobody's really comfortable with that. But I think we'll get a better space study and a better picture even 6 months down the road. I would prefer a year, but with the ARPA, that could have some vacillation.
Did you want to respond to that?
No, this is good discussion.
Okay. My thoughts on it is that, it has been another committee last year that we went over the 2016 space study. And I think it would be very helpful for this committee to see and really understand what it is that we're looking at. I know that one thing that came up was that the population projection was wildly out of whack, and that was just 8 years ago. And then also too, for this committee to get an idea of the scope of the services that were provided to virtually the same population in 2016 versus now because of mandates, and really understanding what we already have acquired during that time and how many of those things, like you said, are inefficient, consolidated. I know we've talked about maybe buying buildings from other entities, that we could use for the county and stuff. So even a delay of 60 or 90 days to take that time for this committee to be well educated before we push it onto the board, because we're supposed to be the subject matter experts before it goes, to the CAL for consideration. So that would be my input on it, not. And I do, again, like the idea of the ARPA money being used for it, but that still gives us time.
Go ahead.
So with the 2016 study, and I'll email out the presentation. It's a PowerPoint presentation, and in fact, if you want, I can probably run through real quickly, but on a high level, 2016 study really focused in on the state's attorney's office, which at the time had clear needed space, and the health department. And then we were also removing, some of you will recall, Annex B, which used to be in front of the government center, and that was health department clinical services. We needed to find a new home. So 2016 study really kind of helped us work through that challenge. That proposed two things, actually 3 things. One, remove Annex B. Secondly, a health department facility, a new standalone building, and then
Put environmental health in this building.
Well, that was the outcome. But in the third, it suggested an addition onto the government center to give the state's attorney more space, and then you had to shift other departments. That was put in place. But We've now since have the state's attorney's needs, which have grown with Pretrial Fairness Act. We have the Public Defender's Office, which had grown similarly for Pretrial Fairness Act. The Sheriff's Administration demands have kind of increased. So these needs are still there. We didn't add any square footage in 2016. The intent and the direction for the county was work with what you have, get comfortable and move departments around. We freed up, we made some opportunities within Annex B. As Pete mentioned, we moved environmental health down here, shrunk the recorder's office. We made it work in 2016. Admittedly, it still works. We don't have people with modular trailers or anything like that, which I hope we never get to. What this is intending to do, though, is understand and recognize those needs still remain from 2016 and has since grown. And we're going to have to do something, right? And I think that's our challenge. We know something has to be done. What the study does, and as Member Althoff pointed out, really the first step is understanding how people work, how the departments function, and then from there, what advantages do we have with integration of technology, with AI, but also too, what changes have there been, through mandates, through different traffics, through different, staff requirements to meet our statutory requirements. Understand all that first, and then from there, then you can understand what the space needs are and then how to best use your space, or if you're going to add space, what that space needs to be. So really step one is really just looking at all those changes that we have as an organization and the demands. And that's really what this will focus in on as the first part, and then we'll be able to propose what the space needs will be.
Go ahead, John.
Is it safe to say then that first part of the study will benefit us regardless of what happens in the new environment that may exist 6 months from now, because it will give us a better idea of how those apartments are working and whether they need more space or potentially maybe need less space?
It'll establish a current baseline.
Look, again, I'll say what I started. I pushed to get this on the agenda today because I'm trying to, this was the expectation that was set for us previously. If, get this going in 25. It's January, I wanted to get this going in 25. If it's the pleasure to take a month or two off and revisit what the presentation that we did previously, we can. I'm pretty confident when we present those facts that you will again reach the conclusion we need to do this. But if it's your pleasure, we can do that.
One more word.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be great to revisit that study, along with maybe what you propose is the condensed new study. Not we'll say line items, but the crux of where you want to hit with this smaller version. That'd be kind of nice to know where the focus
The
is.
state's attorney's office is bursting. We have, in public defender's office, we have 2 attorneys sharing what used to be a conference room. Again, I told you the sheriff's office is saying, what about us? They've been patient, but they're really looking for some different outcomes. And as Pam mentioned, we've got the health department scattered all over the place.
The 2016 plan called for 12,000 additional square feet in that building. Okay, we have managed without that 12,000 square feet for the last 9 years, right? And I would like to be able to. What I'm worried about personally is that I see a year from now us running out of ARPA money and having to go to taxpayers and say, because we delayed this 60 days, we don't have the money to pay for it. Now we gotta go through the property taxes to do it. And I'm not willing to wait the 60 days for that. I know, you go to the report before that. The one that before that was the one that in 2008 is when the population was dramatically different. The population projections in 2008 were 450,000 people. By now we have 310. So I agree with you on that front. But 2016, that wasn't the same problem. 2016, the problem was we need 12,000 feet of space in that building, and we don't have it. Then they added the Safety Act to us, and yes, I know that's a misnomer, but we're stuck with it. And that means that building's now open on Sundays, and it's got all kinds of other costs and expenses. When that act came down, we expected a $500,000 a year loss in revenue just from bonds alone. And I'm concerned. I mean, I trust staff to pare this down and give us something we can work with. But I do think we need to move forward. We're going to need to study. It's been almost 9 years since that study was handed out. And I don't want to wait and then run the risk that we're out of money to do something with it a year and a half from now. That's my sentiment. But anyway, it's up to you guys. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think we're running any risk here because we have a ton of super competent people in this McHenry County government. We could make a lot of these decisions with that old thing, pairing on our own knowledge of how even the pandemic now lets us Zoom some of those courts. We have courts that are totally empty now because sessions of, not whole rooms, sessions of, because now we're Zooming these things. So we've modulated, we've learned to work this thing. And there's a lot of brilliant minds here. Without spending this money and reviewing that 16 plan, could we make some solid decisions that we could go to Kluber and say, here's our focus. Here's where we want to focus our money to be the most beneficial for us at this point in time. Because I always think there's stuff out there, and I know population still drives a lot of this, and I know that variable and many others can't be nailed down. But like I said, we know we have the space needs. But since that study, again, even the space needs over at the courthouse have morphed. They still need space, but not in the original way they thought they were going to use it.
And I think that's 100% true. Those needs have changed. They have morphed even from 2016. And even looking at just the leadership over, we have a new chief judge, and we have a different perspective on how courts are to be handled. We have a new state's attorney that may have some ideas. So what this does is this helps us understand really what those current needs and what the vision will be for, based on everything that they know and what they see on the horizon, the vision will be for those departments. To the point of paring it down and focus, that actually is my intent. That's what I really want to do. We know what the needs are, right? I've identified them. I mean, there may be other needs in the county. The risk is if we move forward on this and there's another need that we don't know, without doing a full master plan, we're not going to know that until it becomes an issue. But at some point in time, I would recommend we still should do, just from I'm going to call it the academic study of that full master planning. But even paring this down, just so we can address those needs that we know. I don't know to the extent, because of things that have changed since 2016. There's new technologies, but there's also new mandates that are put in place. We're asking the architect to go through a very diligent methodology to help us understand what those needs are, and to make recommendations on how we can accommodate those needs with whatever additional space or improvements that they need. I think we need to do that. We're asking to let us move forward on this, give us the latitude to pare this down. And if it's a committee that wants us to focus in on those known immediate needs, dealing with the courthouse, we can do that. That we can focus in on that. That would drop this down. As I mentioned, this is much more of a holistic, as 108,000, much more of a holistic study. We can bring that down considerably, but my ask is we should get moving on it.
Okay, but at the chair's pleasure, of course, can we have your condensed version that we look at that goes to them and says, this is the number I want to work with, not a number out here with a not to exceed, not giving them and anyone the free rein to spend willy-nilly. Focused, they should be able, with a focused parameter, give us a fairly accurate cost, and then I can see if they say, okay, this is $60,000, not to exceed 65, whatever it is, on our focus. Versus us just carte blanche saying $180,000, and let's hope they treat us right.
It's a very fair request, a very fair ask. So there's two paths we can go. This is something we've been working on. I was hoping to deliver exactly what you're asking today. We're not there yet.
I'm pushing.
So, but we can endeavor, I make no promise endeavor, but as you know, we still have 2 weeks before the regular meeting. That gives us some time maybe to pare it down. And at that point in time, we might be in a position to deliver precisely what the scope of services will be with the cost. If that doesn't happen, if we don't have it by then the other option would be wait until the February meeting cycle, but then that delays us another 30 days. So, but we're still going to work on this despite this authority, and I guess what I'm suggesting is we could be in a better position or be in the position that you're asking for by the regular meeting.
30 more days is not putting us behind the 8 ball. I think 30 days, that's, of course, Joe, this is entirely.
No, it's not entirely, but you guys can.
I'm talking about whether they.
You can make a motion to table it for 30 days and let them go do that. And then.
My motion would be convoluted because my motion is I want to see a more narrowed down scope, that we get a more narrowed down scope of cost. It's
not convoluted, then make a motion to table it for 30 days. With the direction
with
that they're coming back.
That's fine.
Right.
That's my motion
Kathy,
with that direction.
Is there a second?
Can we just put in there that the committee just at least reviews 2016 so they can get their head in,
Sure.
you know, be
Well,
aware.
he'll hand out 2016.
Yeah.
That's no problem.
We can go over that a little bit more next month, too.
Yeah, I'll email that presentation out to you, and we'll touch on it at the next meeting if that's the
Just
chair's body.
for new.
Yeah, we did touch on it before, and I liked the information, but we were all, so then we brushed it aside for this year. So I get
It was very
it.
critical.
I get it, the broom's been out twice.
That's a really good job, really good thing for next year.
We're kicking that can hard, but anyway, yeah, that would be my motion.
So the motion is 30 days from, well, the next meeting, the next
Date
administrative
certain,
services.
when you table it should be a date certain.
Well,
So next
okay,
week.
so it'll be to the next administrative services meeting. And then we are asking staff to give us the pared down version or the directional
Cost.
version and the cost, and we'll go from there.
And again,
Have I
not
got
to
that right?
exceed, not to exceed is fine, just like to know really what we're really looking at. That's my motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, all right. That motion takes precedent. All those in favor of tabling this 1 month with those conditions, say aye.
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 Eric,
Aye.
Aye, okay. And I'll vote aye too. This is passed. We will see you in a month on that issue. That
Thank you.
gives us to a motion on 7.6. Don't go too far.
This is Tom. So you should make the motion, this is your discussion.
For 7-6?
Yeah.
7-6,
Make a motion.
I'm making the motion for 7-6.
Is there a second?
Terry seconded.
Terry seconded. Okay. Go ahead, Matt. You got it.
All I wanted was some more background on this because I build huge structures and I don't do IT. So we seem to always get these service agreements, and I understand from our office, my personal office, I understand they are necessary. I just struggle with how many layers and layers of this stuff that we pay for. My question is more, this wasn't, what I'm asking is, does anyone have, and I'm sure we do, a number of how many dollars we're spending on these safety measures?
I'm sure, you know, like, we're paying out of the IT budget, there's money that's being spent, and then out of non-departmental. So I know that that can be put together. I don't know what that number is off the top of my head. I know it's substantial.
Yeah, it's big, because I've watched it go through. Now, my question is, how many redundancies are here, and how many of those redundancies are necessary? Or is every one of these a separate guard item towards our software and hardware and
Well, I don't think any of them are redundant. What this particular one is for is we have a switching infrastructure, right? So there's core switches in our data center, in our data centers, right? We have ISRs and that type of equipment, which is also switching hardware. And those are in all of the different buildings that we're connected to, right? And so if there's a problem, and the firewalls, if there's a problem with any of that equipment, that's what this Smartnet covers. Now, we're not covering all the switches and all the closets, right? We're just covering the main switching components of the network.
okay, then how is that covered? Is this an insurance policy? Are they monitoring this? Is there a physical piece to this puzzle here that's actually covering that?
So, a couple of things. No, they're not monitoring it. We're monitoring it. If we have a problem, this enables us to call their technical support. It also covers next day hardware support on those critical pieces like the main switching components and the firewall. So we could get a new piece of equipment if the technical support determines that it failed because of some type of hardware problem.
Okay. That's great. That's what I wanted to know, needed to know. That has substance. I can see the need. I'll go into a giant dissertation. Someone I know bought a high-end feature that covers all the things you do in your life and use your credit card and guards your information, all that stuff, and yet they were still hacked and lost a lot of money. And this company and this thing had been paying for the past 14 years, they just step in with a phone call and say, hey, how can we help? They help via the telephone. But in this case, it has some actual physical benefit to us then. If we need something and there's a time delay, we're getting that service through these people, correct?
There is a hardware component, so that 8x5 next day business support on that core switching equipment, if it fails, and it's determined that it's a hardware failure, not a software failure, then we can get a new piece of equipment delivered the next day.
But then on the rest of this, if something goes wrong on your end that you're monitoring, you can call them for technically tech support on how to fix the problem on our end.
And we engage Cisco technical support on a fairly regular basis, right, Chris?
We do, and more importantly, like with any software, there's bugs that come out that have security vulnerabilities, all that
They
sort of stuff.
patch that stuff with you too.
And so what this gives us is access to those software upgrades. So we're constantly upgrading our environment to just stay ahead of hackers or anybody else, and that gives us access to it.
Sounds great. Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Any other questions or comments about 7.6? Eric, do you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, then I will go to vote. Matt?
Yes?
Pam?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. That takes us through the consent agenda item.
Thank you.
No old business items yet. We do have an executive session, but we have reports first. Capital plan update.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We'll start down in Crystal Lake. Crystal Lake, as you know, we're undergoing some renovations. We're adding a component to the building to allow for some drive-through clinics using ARPA funds. We also have rolled in the other improvements to the building that were planned under the capital project, a new roof, new sealants, et cetera, general maintenance to this building. We're improving the walk-up ADA accessibility to the building in this process. Along with that, we've been working with the City of Crystal Lake for approvals, and it's gone fairly well. Crystal Lake does a great job with their plan reviews, and we have a meeting next Wednesday with planning and zoning because we have a little hiccup with the impervious surface amount. So that site is under a planned unit development, has a limitation of 68,000 square feet of impervious surface, which is roof pavement, basically. Grass is pervious, everything else on that site is impervious. Well, when the county bought that property, there were 70,100 square feet of impervious surface. So we bought it, there was no planned unit amendment made. We're not exactly sure how that happened. We don't have a record of that being an issue at the time. Since that time, we've reduced the impervious surface by 2,600 square feet because there's a dog exercise area that was cut out of the pavement. Okay, so now we're still 500 square feet or so over this original amount, or we're 2,800 100 square feet over what they want, what the plan unit says it should be. So we're meeting with them on Wednesday evening to talk about this. We have a presentation ready to go. We hope that we'll be able to move forward with the site plan as drawn. We will find out how the planning and zoning feels about that next Wednesday night. If they say, no, we want it at 68,000, what our response will be to remove parking along the furthest, which would be the west extent of that property, and remove a row of parking there and turn that into lawn, dog exercise or something. It'll slightly constrain the property for movement, but it'll work. We can make that work. We brought parking up to the front of the site to allow better access for people coming to the building to use the facilities. So we'd like to leave that there. So that's where we stand. Otherwise, we're itching to get started with it. So the process will be next Wednesday, planning and zoning, and then the following month we'll be at committee, we hope, provided planning and zoning says okay. In the government center, we have a restroom refresh project going on that was approved, and we kicked that off yesterday. We have 10 banks of public toilet facilities in that, and we're moving right along with the first pair that we're doing. Looks great. We added lighting. We've got new solid surface countertops going in. The laminate countertops that were installed in 1992, shown their wear. A lot of hand washing has occurred since then. So we're optimistic that we'll be done with that project in the second week of February. That's our plan. Corner suite lab renovation project is out for bid right now. Hope to be bids returned at the end of this month. And I think because of the way committee structures work, it'll be at the county board for approval in March is what I'm thinking. I don't think it'll get here in February. Administrative parking lot renovation project is also out for bid and will be returned in time this month to get it onto the agenda next month. And so we'll be talking about that hopefully at this meeting next month with you. Administration rooftop equipment replacement was a resolution here to enter into an agreement with MG Mechanical in Woodstock to land the equipment that we pre-purchased, and that should happen in late March, early April. It's the shoulder season, and we're hoping to get that on-off on premium time so that we're not removing it the day of a county board meeting and it gets extremely hot in here and my phone doesn't ring. So that's where we're at with that. Valley High Memory Care, as you know, we went into substantial completion with that project in late November. The project is substantially complete. We've hit a bit of a snag with the testing and balance of the air handling equipment that serves the original core of the building, not the new work so much. So there's a requirement that the system delivers X number of CFMs per space. And in that we came up short. We weren't able to deliver that amount of CFM per each of these rooms. The culprit appears to be a motor that needs to be replaced because of age. It's not delivering the same amount of power that it did when it was originally installed. And B, the sheaves that the pulleys that this motor attaches to need to be changed in size. So we've worked through that with a change order to the mechanical contractor. It's not a huge amount. It's an amount. It's in the order of magnitude of $5,000 to $7,000 with the work that needs to change in addition to the equipment change. So we're hoping that solves our problem because this original building achieved its testing balance when it was constructed. Really nothing has changed as far as that physical space other than we need to deliver the results to the IDPH for approval. So that's where we stand on that. It hasn't really impacted it hasn't impacted, we were hoping to be able to have that occupied in February. I don't believe that's going to happen. hopefully will be March. And I think that coincides well with where Mr. Annarillo is with his hiring of a new director there, so for that unit. That's what I have to offer. Any
Questions?
Two, how did we miss, or Crystal Lake miss, with the impervious square footage on that project before it went to it?
Well, I can't speak to how it was missed. I personally wouldn't have been aware of a planned unit development restriction on that site, as I wouldn't have had any knowledge of that. The building was purchased before I was here at the county, and I was under I wasn't under the impression there was an issue with it, and in fact, there wasn't an issue with it. We were operating the facility, without interaction with the city.
But it's because we pulled a permit that was discovered.
Recalculated.
Well, we pulled a permit and we increased impervious surface.
Well, we were already over.
We were already over.
We were probably
right?
grandfathered in though.
That
original building was built in the 90s.
The kicker is we have no record of any interaction on that original 70,000, whatever it was, that we bought. The city can't provide us with a lawsuit, anything, where the permits were issued to State Farm, the building was constructed, the drawings that State Farm produced and were permitted show 70,000 square feet of impervious surface. So how was that missed? How did that allow to continue? Well, we can challenge that with the city of Crystal Lake, and we can spend quite a bit of time, I imagine, with that. Or we can go in and say, can we amend this and make it happen? And that's what our step is to do.
The only issue with that is, again, we talk about growth all the time, and you're saying it makes encumbrances to the parking lot. And so we're ended up paring down our needs for something that
Nice.
it's very suspect, and I don't want to go way off in the weeds, but it's very suspect now that we've had this little contentious issues with Crystal Lake over other items. Now, all of a sudden that we're seeing this. And can it be proved? Can they bring us paperwork that shows us the 68,000 was in place prior to this?
Yes, they can show the planned unit development specifications, which do clearly state 68,000 square feet.
Prior to our purchase of the property?
That.
For
I don't
whatever
know
it's worth.
year. Go ahead.
I had nothing to do with this building being set up. I had nothing to do with this building being purchased. But coincidentally, I had another zoning petition up when State Farm was in front of the city asking for this building. I had nothing to do with it. I sat and watched those hearings back in the early 90s or late 80s, whatever. I think it was early 90s. And there was a huge fight then because the city's ordinance was different then. The city's ordinance about building in the Crystal Lake watershed then was you could put 20% of your surface coverage, period. That's all you got. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why there's large areas like the Flowerwood that never got developed because they would, until they changed that ordinance, you couldn't build anything. Your road that came into there counted as part of the 20%. And the family that owned that property had a big fight over it. State Farm was willing to underwrite the fight long enough, and that's how that ultimately. They then turned around as a city and said, we're going to change our ordinance so that you can show that the water's getting in the ground. That hard surface coverage, you can cover more of your area with hard surface coverage or impervious surface as long as you get that water in the ground. And until that change happened, there was a constant war on anything that was in the Crystal Lake watershed. And so, I mean, I don't remember it being 68,000 square feet, but I remember there was a lot of contention at the city about whether that was going to be built at all. So it doesn't surprise me that we're up against the limits, but I also know the statute's changed since then, or not the state, the city's ordinance has changed since then. So that could be another reason why it wasn't a big issue before.
Well, if you're interested in some theater next Wednesday at 7.
No, the history was
I've been here often
good.
enough times.
The history was good. I just wondered why, but
Yeah.
evidently this has been.
No, I'd like to think it isn't related to that, Matt.
I just I've never had any dealings or any work in Crystal Lake in all the many years. We work outside of that. I'm on the far end of the county, so I had no idea. But okay, thank you. That's great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The CFM was my other question, that we were that close to the mark.
We're very close on the test and balance when the building was constructed, reviewing that. It was right there, but it was there. So what's changed? Age.
Motors slow down, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
But we rarely do a building that we let the testing get that close, that normal wear
Yeah,
and
it's
tear.
close.
Because it needs to rock down to a certain percentage of efficiency as that thing ages. Otherwise, you're changing blowers and motors out constantly.
Correct.
So we must have been that close.
We were close.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Human resources, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning. Welcome to 2025. We're all excited, right? So for those that don't know me, I'm Suzanne. I am honored to be the HR director for McHenry County. I've just passed my 6 months in this position, but I've been with the county since 2017. So very excited to work with everyone and help employees along their way in their journey. So I just want to let you know that we're starting off the year with 1,069 full-time employees. We have 116 part-time and 30 per diem and 14 seasonal. So that's a pretty big staff. That's a lot to maintain and take care of. But I think our HR staff does a really, really good job doing that. So I'm going to pass out a couple things for you. One is a vacancy report. This is something that everyone in this committee has been interested in. And I assume that new members would be interested in understanding our vacancy positions as well. The other thing is a little informational sheet that we'll spend a couple minutes on going over. And this is just everything that HR does in the scope of our work. It's kind of a little reference for you in the event that you were ever to have a question. You can quickly reference it, and you can certainly reach out to us for any questions. So, vacancy report, it's kind of, pretty straightforward. You'll see that our biggest groups have the largest number of openings. Valley High does have several. I think a lot of that is based on the opening of that new memory care unit. Sheriff is generally based on testing, which they are planning another test in the spring. So otherwise, I think everyone is maintaining their staff well. We do have some open positions that have been on there for a while that I know Pete has had conversations with a couple folks just to get an idea of, kind of where they're at with that position, what they're doing with it, if they're looking to make a change. So those are things that we pay attention and we watch on a regular basis. So that's that. Again, like I said, the programs and services, it's just like I said, it's a reference for you to just be able to glance down and see if there was anything you were ever interested in to know a little more about. It's how it's handled, who handles it, and what we do on a daily basis. So, any questions on the vacancy report or just your little reference sheets? I can send these to you electronically if you'd like to have it electronically as well. Yeah.
If I missed it, forgive me. On the rate, does that include payroll burden or is that base pay?
It is just base pay.
Do we know what the payroll burden rate is?
Well, you would have taxes and IMRF. So it'd be 7.65% for your tax.
Benefits?
It depends on their enrollment.
I mean, what the county covers?
Yeah, and again, it just depends on, some employees enroll in nothing, some employees enroll in everything.
So if we said, and then this is like, sorry, because it does matter. Do we have a policy, for example, of unused vacation pay being paid out? Or does it have to be a use it or lose it type of thing?
So vacation pay upon termination is paid out.
Upon paid termination, but I
Upon
mean just annual. You
That
know,
rolls over.
that rolls over only.
Yeah.
Do we have a max on what can roll over?
Yes.
Okay, good, all right. And then, because if we use like 12% would probably be very conservative as a payroll burden rate, but maybe 12, 15, not too far off.
Yeah, especially when you get into your sworn deputies and they're on a SLEP with IMRF, so that rate is significantly higher than that of a normal employee.
Okay, so could
So I can put a little summary of that together for you to help you do a little quicker calculation.
I mean, just so that people know when you're looking at the 4.12 million, that's not all of it. You know, that we've
Right.
still got another $500,000 in there. Probably, maybe not that much, but still.
Right.
And then the other thing that I wanted to ask, and I know this has come up before, but when we see positions open for well over a year, I know we had discussed 60 days would be the amount of time that we would expect, like the nurse, it's a part-time position from September of '23. Why are those, and it says that they're actively recruiting, but there's probably more to that story. So what is it?
You know, some depends on, each individual group. Which position you're specifically looking at?
The professional nurse, very
I
bottom.
can answer that. We
Valley
can't
High.
compete with local hospitals giving
No,
$10,000 bonuses.
I brought that up because I think that this was involved with the whole memory care project, and that they had to get to a certain point. So they knew they had the head count, but now
Oh, I see what you're saying. Now the
programs-
position is it's open and they have to fill. I
Actually,
see.
they have no, virtually, it was identified as being needed for this back in September of 2023.
But the position wasn't really open yet.
Exactly, it couldn't be
Understood.
filled, because, so I mean, see, sometimes any board member or person from the public can pick it up and look at it and start picking away at it, but in many cases, there's more to the story. I happen to be on that committee, and no, right now recruiting is going very well. I don't know how it is in other departments. So that was one thing that I know we had discussed somewhere in the finance committee, that there was supposed to be a 6-month window for a position to actually be on the books and budgeted. And I know that what's actually open with HR may be different than what's for budget purposes. So us being aware of those things helps us to address it when it's brought up.
You're right.
And that the numbers are different. And then, this is something that's, and I don't, now is probably not the right, probably should have been an old business, but I'll just go ahead and throw it out there. Is it okay if I do that? Our total county budget is like 265 million. Am I close?
Yep.
And then the levy amount was 62?
53.
It's something, I thought,
Ballpark, yeah.
let's say 64, whatever. When we're looking at expenditures, because everybody else probably has grasped this, but it was just sinking into me that part of our expenditures have no impact on the levy. You know, that there could be payroll and such and different operating budgets that aren't impacting the levy, and then others are. And I probably need to talk to someone about this so I can get it set in my head right. But you know what I'm saying, a lot of times we're concerned about expenditures and such when they're covered by other funds, especially like in the Department of Health.
Right.
That,
Absolutely. Grant monies.
right, and so,
Or other tax money.
Right, or the
Yeah.
tax dollars, right?
Yeah.
There's other tax dollars. Maybe it's not all property tax,
and I think about this a lot, and so if it's just really soaking in after 2 years. Maybe other people aren't even there yet. And it might be good for us to raise the level of awareness, that's all. Oh, one other thing, and this should have also been covered under old business, so this is really out of the structure. Is there a possibility that we could have just like a little spreadsheet of the remaining unaccounted for ARPA dollars and what we're projecting, where they're gonna go?
It doesn't go through this committee, but I think they have that.
Yeah,
I mean, does everybody have that though on the board so they can see?
I'm sure we can get it.
You know, we did kind of pass a resolution last month, kind of setting up, I think we have a ballpark of 3.3 million that was kind of loosely identified.
Right.
So we want to have a little bit more discussion on how that might be utilized.
Well, that's what I was thinking, and not even that we're committing to it or doing resolutions, but just so that people can start seeing, oh, if I decide this, then there won't be that, or, oh,
Where
that's
the limits
just,
are at.
yeah, so that's all, and I just thought I'd bring it up because we still, administration still looks at a lot of that anyways. I meant to pull that in old business and just, okay, back to, sorry.
That's okay, that's okay. Interruptions are always
To the
good.
regular schedule.
Yeah, sure. So again, like I said, I can email these things to you electronically. Just to kind of just highlight a little bit on my little cheat sheet, as I would refer to it. You know, we see we have a staff of 7 and balancing a lot of employees. It's a lot. It's a lot of work to keep everyone rowing the same way. But I think I have a very strong team and I'm very proud and happy to be, you know, part of that group. We do still manage, the majority of our benefits are done through IPBC. That is the co-op that we work with. And I have them kind of listed together. We do still have a few benefits that we have broker of record with Gallagher. And so those are outside of the IPBC group. They've asked us to join some, like with WEX. I don't always like all my eggs in one basket. I like to have some diversity and control over some benefits when I feel like it's not really going to be a huge benefit to the county to join all of IPBC's things. So we remain independent with our FSA and our HSA accounts, our MetLife accident insurance, IMED Vision, our TASC FMLA administration, and our AMWINS, which is our retirement supplemental insurance. So those are insurances that are not under the IPBC umbrella. So I just kind of wanted to help identify a little bit of that for you. We of course do direct contact with retirement benefits with IMRF. NESPERS, which is a life insurance kind of offered, it's a little bit of an offshoot of IMRF. And then we have nationwide retirements for our 457s, Roth and regular options. So we bring those people on site to do a lot of trainings and one-on-one meetings with employees for their conveniences. So we work with those throughout the year. There's some additional employee programs that we are constantly working with, going down into even wellness programs, and then just a little scope of day-to-day responsibilities that we can face at any moment. So we again still have our collective bargaining agreements, and that just kind of gives you just a little summary. So if anybody would ever have any questions, I'd welcome for you to come down and meet with us. Just a couple things I wanted to update you on. Negotiations with the ASME services probations is still ongoing. It's moving very slowly. That contract expired the end of November. We are meeting again in February. So we're at a pretty good stretch on wages. They have a very tall ask and it's going to take a while to find the middle ground. That you will not see that contract because that is approved and done through courts. So that is, the judge actually signs that contract.
The state shares a lot of the burden of that contract
Yes.
with us, so they are the ones negotiating it and ultimately settling. It's for context, AFSCME didn't do themselves any favors a few years ago when they settled their last agreement, and then the county board allowed us, because of the wage inflation, to do mid-year wage adjustments in the summer of '22 and the summer of '24. These employees did not receive any benefit from those mid-year adjustments, and so now you see that the catch-up is more significant.
Yeah, so they're, like I said, they have a lot on the table. Their economics package is big. So we've rejected multiple offers. There's been some warm conversation across the tables, but I know we'll get it settled eventually. But I'll keep you posted on any activities with that. Also, for information, again, we have been sourcing and reviewing our vendor for our outsourcing of FMLA. So we've been working with Task out of Madison for the last 4 years, and we feel that their service has just decreased significantly. We don't have an identified contact person we can get with. They're slow to get us information. Employees are waiting to have surgeries before they know that they can get their FMLA approved. We're just not satisfied with that. We have met with 3 vendors. We narrowed it down to 2, had second rounds of meetings, feel we have now identified 1. And so we're in negotiations with a contract. They are actually part of ComPsych, which is the county EAP. So that gives us a leverage to negotiate even better pricing with them than what we would do otherwise. So that is within budget. It's not anything different. It's within the purchasing ordinance, so it's just really more information. But we truly, really focus on the service that they provide our employees. So
Yes, if we're paying for service and not getting it, absolutely, we should go after it.
yes.
And Suzanne asked if we wanted to bring this to committee, and I said, you know what, this is budgeted, this is less than 30,000, but let's just update.
Yeah,
It's appreciated.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think we'll be happy with their services. That contract ends in April, so we'll be transitioning that, but I'll bring you more information when there's anything you would like to know more about them. Gallagher is helping us with that because a lot of these vendors will only work through brokerage. They won't do direct billing or direct negotiations with clients. So that's where we're with it. That we completed our largest open enrollment ever. We had 1,000 employees complete open enrollment, and every one of those open enrollment were reviewed by our staff. We've become mind readers during open enrollment because people will put down that they want dependent care and they have no children. So we want to make sure that they really understood what they did. They did a great job. The staff worked really hard, and we were very successful in getting that over the finish line. So we are into 2025 benefits and happy to put that behind us. And like I said, I invite any of you or all of you to come down and meet with us. If you have questions of anything on my list or anything that you're just curious about, our door is always open. And
For open meetings act purposes, don't all go together.
don't all go together. Well, you can all go together. We got a nice conference room. So yes, so thank you again. Any other questions for me?
Anybody? Eric, any from your end?
No.
No, I'm good. Thank you for the update, though.
Thank you. Communication, just handed out a report. Eric, sorry, I don't have a way for you to get it.
That's all right.
Well, I'll email it to him. Good morning. I am Alicia Schuler, Director of Public Affairs. For those who are watching at home, I understand there are some committee members that are a bit new to this committee. So, hi, I give a monthly report on how our communications are going here at McHenry County. First thing you'll notice on my report is Communication Strategic Plan. There is a Communication Strategic Plan here at McHenry County. Parts of it are taken from the County Board Strategic Plan, and parts of it are pieces that our communicators across the 5 different offices that have communications personnel have put together, some ideas that we want to implement going forward and are things that we all feel we can do together. So over the past year, we've had a lot of successes that you can see here. And I'm going to stop right there because I realize that I did not say who those communications personnel are. Just so you know, there are separate communications officers in the Sheriff's Office, State's Attorney's Office, Division of Transportation, Department of Public Health, and of course, County Administration. We all respond to different folks, we have different bosses, have different communications needs, but this plan, the Communications Strategic Plan, helps us to all row in the same direction. And I do like to do a lot of facilitating and coordinating to make sure that we are all working together and being a force multiplier to get this county story out there to our residents. So with that being said, some of the objectives that we have completed over the past year is working with the HR department to create testimonial videos for the career development program. Some of the other things we did was we worked with the State's Attorney's Office to get a training out for Freedom of Information Act, or for the Freedom of Information Act. A lot of us communications folks are FOIA officers, so again, it's important to make sure that we're staying on top of all the recommendations put forward by the state. Another great thing that happened is the DOT and their communications personnel pulled off the very first ever Touch a Truck event. Very successful, went down right outside of the Blaine's Farm in Fleet. And it's a good way to get the public to understand the different ways that the county serves through our transportation. Another great accomplishment that we had here was the reinvigoration of the McHenry County Public Information Officer Network. That is a coalition of different communications officers from municipalities, hospitals, school districts to come together, share ideas, share stories, and best practices so that we can better communicate with our shared residents. Another opportunity that we had, thanks to our emergency management agency, was having the Illinois Emergency Management and Office of Homeland Security, got that acronym down, that was a really long one. They came out and they helped to teach us about communicating together as different units of government to best communicate with our residents during winter storms. It was a great workshop and we all got to network and of course develop different communications that we could put out in different situations and work together. Another great opportunity that we had was our Sheriff's Office got a prestigious opportunity to go to a LEADA Media and Public Relations course that was hosted by the FBI, so kudos on them. And of course, our Public Health Department, which received a grant from the state, got 2.4 million impressions. I'm going to say it again, 2.4 million impressions and 14,000 clicks for their Illinois Breast and Cervical Cancer Program public awareness campaign, so good on them. But we also work together a lot through county administration. A lot of our role here is to be a facilitator and to make sure that those offices that don't have a public information officer have their stories heard too. So just so you know, because I know you guys are into the numbers here, county administration has put out 34 press releases in 2024. Of those 34, 26 were for other departments and elected offices. So again, we are working hard to make sure that other offices are getting their stories told too, so that they don't need to necessarily have their own communications staff and personnel. Everybody gets one, everybody doesn't necessarily need to have a pony each, right? So again, we have also worked with the McHenry County Economic Development Corporation to put out the Rise and Thrive video series. Again, you can see that on our YouTube channel, and I encourage you to check them out. They're really great, and it was a pleasure to work with Mark Picos and to really showcase the different attributes that the county has for doing business. Also, we've been working with our Planning and Development Department to record their Talking Tour series so that people can watch those series on their own time, in addition to appearing in person. But I know you guys are more of a, by the numbers kind of group. So again, we have a little summary here of follower growth and reach. And again, we have had increase across all of our different channels and, a total reach of over 300,000 accounts on Facebook over the year, 7,700 on Instagram. X, also known as Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter, about 161,000 impressions and 140,316 accounts reached on LinkedIn. So again, these are in the county administration side of the house. We do not have funding for paid ads, but so this is all non-paid reach on our side. But again, that's what we've got for this year. Do you have any questions for me?
You're off the hook.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And nice job.
Thank you.
Mr. Austin.
Scott's going to talk about strategic plan really quick.
Okay.
It's not on here.
You know, it's part of my report.
But the administrator
Who's
report.
going to do it in 1 minute?
Or a strategic plan.
We just want to give you some insight as to where we are in the process and what those next steps are, because you're going to be a critical part of those next steps. A week from Friday, January 17th, we're going to have our elected official department head forum. This is going to be a meeting of all the department heads to come in, share their thoughts, insights with the facilitators, maybe some things they see on the horizon. And this is going to help develop information for you to consider when you get into the strategic plan workshop. So they're going to give you a report, and you'll have a better understanding as to what the team is thinking and what you need to be aware of as county board members. Late February, we're going to have our external stakeholder meeting. That date's to be determined. This will include a meeting with our external partners, MCCD, Mental Health Board, Naturally McHenry County, MCEDC, McCog, so they're going to come in and just going to share their thoughts. Once again, to give you more information as you contemplate your strategic plan. This is important to note. Early March, or sometimes in March, we're going to be setting up county board meetings by district. So you and your district partners will ask to come together so you can share with the facilitators your thoughts, insights, and priorities in that small group session. This is really where you get some direct input with the facilitators, let them know what's on your mind, what's on your constituents' mind, and then once again, that provides some of the background. And that all culminates into April, date to be determined. We'll work with the county board, the strategic plan workshop. This is where you come together, and this is really where all that rubber meets the road. You'll talk and you'll deliberate, you'll collaborate, and you'll develop your strategic plan, so sometime in April. Very important meeting. We hope that you, once we decide the date, you can prioritize that on your schedule, because it's critical that you're there. With that, are there any questions on your strategic plan process? Thank you.
Okay, a couple of quick things for my report. Next Monday, we're going to have our legislators in here, meeting with our Law and Government Committee and putting together a legislative program, which we'll be adopting in February. Had a really good meeting a week or so ago with Wonder Lake and R1, seeking dollars to develop a plan to bring in the east side of Wonder Lake onto the new Wonder Lake stormwater and water system that they're developing. It obviously is a massive project.
Stormwater or sewer?
What's that?
Is it stormwater or sanitaries?
Sanitaries.
You said
You said
stormwater.
stormwater,
That threw me
yeah.
off.
But
We have roughly 2,500 unsewered homes on the east side of Wonder Lake. And most of those are unincorporated. They are ours. Our friends at the Village of Wonder Lake are putting a big new system up and down Hancock, and their opportunity is there to welcome a lot of homes into that system, but there's a lot of political challenges, there's a lot of financial challenges, and a lot of governance challenges. So we're working with R1 to just develop a plan to kind of tackle some of those issues. But again, we're talking about a big job.
Okay.
Anyways, working on that. Shaylin is kind of running point on that. I had a meeting earlier this week with Leon Rizzi on mental health sales tax and kind of working with Terry and doing some modeling. Talked some with Chairman Bueller, and he would like us to kind of do a quick update to the full county board at the committee of the whole meeting a week from tomorrow. Again, we're just trying to acknowledge where we are with our estimates, and I truly think we can paint a picture that we are not worse off. We're in a better position. We got a stronger tool than we've ever had to fund our mental health, and we kind of frame that a little bit for everyone. Village managers are going to meet in this room on Monday to talk about issues, Sheila, putting them together. Planning and development is going live with their electronic permitting on January 28th. Adam has left the room, but on January 23rd, you can open bidding up for the planned area units for fiber. The state has now launched this, so Comcast and Frontier and others are going to be able to bid on these little hexagon projects all over the state, and there's a ton in the western and northern part of the county, and we're anxious to work on that with them. And then finally, the question raised earlier today about the statement of economic interest. I will look into that.
I have a meeting with Adam later on this afternoon about something completely different, but I just asked him if we could address this. You know where I am on this, and I will tell everybody I'm like an old lady harping and harping, but I really believe that we should get into an orientation mindset. not only for new members here, but new members to commissions. You know, I do that with senior services grant. I don't think you bring people in and throw them into whatever it is they're doing and not explain what the mission is, what their responsibilities are, what the, ultimate outcome is. So I would just tell
A
you.
couple of things were in my mind as
Yeah.
the gentleman was speaking, we used to have a second county statement of economic interest. We've gotten rid of that, and I hope that wasn't any of the confusion. Regarding the states, I think that there is some opportunity sometimes to revisit who we're asking to do that.
Yeah.
And there is some legitimate interpretation that goes on down in the clerk's office that sometimes we could think through in terms of what's really happening. Yeah.
I do want to point out that when anybody is appointed to any board or commission, whether they're reappointed or it's a new appointment, we do send them the guidebook for elected officials, and it is in there in detail about that.
And you assume that anybody who's a volunteer would read it, including myself.
They are important.
I know, but I think that it has to be more of a hands-on welcoming
Something
them
that's
into
gonna
the
cost them money.
fold.
They should know
Yeah,
about.
yeah. I mean, some responsibility. So if it's okay with you, I'll just bring it up to Adam when I see him this
That's
afternoon.
great, thank you. In your packet is 5.5 pages of me and my goals that this committee gave to me in the summer. I've tried to update them in red in October and in January in blue. I'll do it again in March or April timeframe as we kind of wrap up my year's worth of goals. Nothing particularly. You can reread them, ask me if there's questions. We did have space study in the goals. That's part of what I was pushing on this, but it's still in there. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions on the administrator's report?
I just have one. The stuff that's being done with McCog, are we following up on the affordable housing stuff with that too? Are you doing that?
The workforce housing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will bring to February PED committee a memorandum of understanding for operating with CMAP in Kane County on this new pilot program.
Okay.
And in talking with Chairman Bueller and Sheehan, they're really looking like that is the next step, is to work on that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions? Any future topics? I need a motion to go into executive session for personnel and for real property and to review prior minutes. Can I have that motion? By Terry, seconded by Matt. I'm sorry.
Is there gonna be a way for me to stick around for that, or no? Because I'm
No.
remote?
You're gonna be gone, Eric.
We don't know who's with you.
All right. Hey, can I get the information?
Of course.
Can I meet up with you, Pete, later this week, maybe, just to get an overview of it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. So we have a motion and a second. Although, I gotta do this roll call. Okay, Pam?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Eric? Even though you're not gonna be?
Yes.
Yes?
Eric, I can even call you in an hour if you want, or half hour.
switch tape recorders and that stuff and go back and conduct our regular session. Anybody out there? I wouldn't think so.
Typically, everything is collected from executive session. Are we leaving these?
Those should probably go back.
I gave you, but Matt, they're,
We have our demos there for you.
Matt was my,
Secretary at large.
yes,
Did you
very effective.
pass over the agreement as well?
Everything in executive
Yeah.
session after you turn back in.
Got them all? Okay, we're gonna go back into regular session. Roll call again. John?
Here.
Paul?
Here.
Terry?
Here.
Pam?
Here.
Matt?
Here.
And I'm here. Eric is not here because he was off, he was online. We have one thing to approve, and that would be, we've reviewed the executive session minutes, kind of a motion to approve those executive session minutes and send them to the state's attorney's office for decision whether there is.
Second.
Moved by Terry, seconded by John. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's done. Adjournment, I can have a motion to adjourn.
You beat me.
I did it on purpose.
Paul, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, folks. Thank you for your morning.